Science just confirmed a secret animal reality. What if I told you that an animal with a brain distributed through its arms is having an experience of reality just as rich and maybe even richer than your own? What if those familiar bird chirps or the silent dance of a fish in a tank aren't just biological programming, but the signs of a hidden, subjective world? For centuries, we've put ourselves at the top of the food chain, the only ones with real consciousness. But what if that's just our own ego talking? A groundbreaking new declaration by some of the world's top scientists and philosophers didn't just suggest this. It basically confirmed that we're living in a world packed with other minds, and it's irresponsible to keep ignoring them. The secret's out, and it's going to change how you see everything. Section 1. The declaration that changed everything. On April 19, 2024, a group of leading scientists and thinkers gathered at NYU to release a document that marks a huge turning point: the New York Declaration on Animal Consciousness. This wasn't some hesitant proposal. It was a confident consensus statement built on decades of evidence. The declaration makes a few critical points. First, it says there is strong scientific support for conscious experience in all mammals and birds. That alone is a big deal, moving the whole conversation from a debate into the realm of accepted science. But the next part is what really shatters the old way of thinking. The declaration states there's a realistic possibility of conscious experience in all vertebrates. We're talking reptiles, amphibians, and fish, and even many invertebrates, like octopuses, crabs, lobsters, and insects. This is a massive expansion of who we consider to be conscious. To be clear, they're not talking about deep, human-like thoughts. They mean something more fundamental, what philosophers call phenomenal consciousness or sentience, the basic capacity to have subjective experiences. This is the raw feeling of being alive. The sting of pain, the warmth of the sun, a pang of hunger, or a jolt of fear. This builds on an earlier statement from 2012, the Cambridge Declaration on Consciousness, which first officially said, humans aren't special in having the hardware for consciousness. But this New York Declaration goes way further, pulling in entire classes of animals, like insects, that we used to dismiss as biological robots. The message is crystal clear. The evidence is now so strong that it is, in the Declaration's own words, irresponsible to ignore that possibility in decisions affecting that animal. We now have a moral obligation to consider that the creatures we share this planet with have inner lives. Section 2. The problem of other minds. So you might be thinking, if the evidence is so strong, what took so long? Well, it all comes down to one of the toughest puzzles in science and philosophy: the problem of other minds. How can you really know that anyone or anything outside your own head is conscious? You can't get in there and see their reality for yourself. I can tell you I'm thinking, but all you can do is observe my behavior and infer what's going on inside. For a long time, this problem gave science a reason to be cautious. Because a bat can't tell us what it feels like to see with sound, or an octopus can't describe tasting with its skin, science hesitated to make any claims. Attributing human feelings to animals, known as anthropomorphism, was seen as a scientific sin. The default assumption was, animals are not conscious unless proven otherwise. The New York Declaration flips that assumption on its head. It argues that we don't need absolute 100% certainty. The new standard is a realistic possibility. If an animal's behavior and brain structure strongly suggest it can feel pain, or pleasure, or fear, we should act as if it's possible. We can't hide behind the excuse of uncertainty anymore. The evidence has simply piled up. We see it in bees that appear to play just for fun. We see it in crayfish that show signs of anxiety, which can be treated with the same drugs humans use. We see it in garter snakes that can recognize their own scent, hinting at a form of self-awareness. Any one of these discoveries might be easy to dismiss, but when you put them all together, they paint an undeniable picture of a world filled with feeling, experiencing beings. The question is no longer if they're conscious, but how they're conscious. And the answers are weirder than we ever could have dreamed. Section 3. Case Study: The Alien Mind of the Octopus. If you want to understand just how alien another consciousness can be, look no further than the octopus. If we ever meet an intelligent alien, this is probably the closest we'll get. Our evolutionary paths split over 600 million years ago, leading to a mind that's built in a totally different way. A human brain is a centralized command center. Our sense of I lives inside our skull. But an octopus throws that whole idea out the window. It has about 500 million neurons, comparable to a small mammal like a cat. But 2/3 of those neurons aren't in its central brain. They're spread out across its 8 arms. Each arm has its own complex nerve cord that acts like a mini-brain, capable of making its own decisions. An octopus arm can touch, taste, and move all by itself, processing information on the spot without needing to phone home to the main brain. Let that sink in. When an octopus reaches for something, its arm might be exploring with its own agenda. Some scientists and philosophers have suggested this could mean octopuses experience a kind of distributed awareness, or maybe even multiple consciousnesses. The arms might be part self, part other, like independent agents. It's a reality so foreign, it forces us to question our most basic ideas of what a mind even is. Their behavior backs up this otherworldly intelligence. Octopuses are famous for their curiosity and problem-solving skills. They can open jars, solve mazes, and even recognize individual people. They also show signs of having a rich inner life, including the ability to feel pain. Studies show they'll avoid places where they had a bad experience and will seek out pain relief, which points to a subjective feeling, not just a simple reflex. They aren't just biological machines. They're curious, engaged beings. And yet, their consciousness is built on an architecture that blurs the line between brain and body. Their experience of the world might not be a single, unified movie like ours, but a chorus of semi-independent experiences, an I that is both one and many. The octopus doesn't just have a mind, it is a mind, embodied in a way that is deeply and profoundly alien. Section 4. Case Study: The Familiar yet Foreign Mind of the Dolphin. If the octopus is a mind that's totally alien, the dolphin is a different kind of puzzle. Their consciousness seems almost familiar, yet it exists in a completely different world. Dolphins are large-brained, super-social mammals, and their smarts often rival those of great apes. One of the most convincing clues to their advanced consciousness is the mirror self-recognition test. In this test, an animal gets a little spot of paint they can only see in a mirror. If they use the mirror to check out the mark on their own body, it's seen as strong evidence for self-awareness. Humans, chimps, and elephants can do it, and so can dolphins. They'll twist and turn to get a better look at the mark, showing they know the reflection is them. One study even found that dolphins can do this as young as 7 months old, earlier than human kids. This self-awareness is the bedrock of their incredibly complex social lives. They use signature whistles that work like names, they form alliances, and they teach each other new ways to hunt. This isn't just instinct, it's culture. But here's where their consciousness takes a weird turn. Dolphins have to consciously decide to breathe. For them, falling into a deep sleep like we do would be fatal. Their solution is brilliant. They sleep with only one half of their brain at a time. One hemisphere rests while the other stays alert, watching for predators and telling the body when to go up for air. Imagine that experience. A state of being that's never fully off, a continuous awareness that keeps going even during sleep. Their world is also built on sound. Through echolocation, they can see their environment in 3D, perceiving the shape and density of objects, and even peer inside the bodies of other fish. Their sensory reality is a symphony of clicks and echoes we can barely comprehend. So while a dolphin's brain has parts that are similar to ours, and they show behaviors we recognize like self-awareness and empathy, their actual subjective experience, a life lived in a world of sound, with a mind that never truly sleeps, is profoundly different. They show us that even a consciousness that looks familiar on the outside is likely built on a totally different foundation. We've just scratched the surface of two profoundly different minds in the animal kingdom. What this new scientific consensus tells us is that there are countless others, each a unique universe of experience. It forces us to ask bigger questions, not just about them, but about ourselves. If this is the kind of thinking that fascinates you, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss our next exploration into the frontiers of science. And let me know in the comments, which animal's mind do you think would be the strangest to experience? Section 5. Beyond a Ladder. A new model of consciousness. For too long, we've thought about consciousness as a ladder. At the bottom were the simple creatures, and way up at the top, of course, was us. This model was simple, it was comforting, and it was completely wrong. The evidence from octopuses, dolphins, birds, and even insects shows us that consciousness isn't a single thing. It's not a ladder, but more like a vast, multidimensional space. Scientists now suggest we think about consciousness in terms of different profiles. These profiles vary along several key dimensions. There's perceptual richness. How detailed and vibrant is an animal's sensory world? A dog's world is rich with smells we can't imagine, while a dolphin's is defined by sound. Then there's evaluative richness, the capacity for emotions and feelings. This is the ability to feel pain, pleasure, fear, or joy. Another dimension is temporal integration. How does an animal experience time? Does it live mostly in the present, or does it have a sense of its past and future, like the cuttlefish that can remember specific past events? And finally, there's self-consciousness. The degree to which an animal has a concept of itself as an individual, separate from the world, like what we see in the mirror test. Using this model, we can see that different species have different combinations of these traits. An octopus might have incredible perceptual richness and problem-solving skills, but a very different, less unified sense of self. A dolphin might score high on self-consciousness and social awareness, while a bee might have a surprisingly rich emotional experience, capable of feeling something like playfulness. No single species is more conscious than another. They are simply conscious in different ways. Their minds were shaped by millions of years of evolution to solve the unique problems of their world. Human consciousness is just one possible setup out of countless others. Conclusion. The scientific community's formal declaration that we live among other minds isn't just a footnote in a textbook. It's a reality check for our time. Just as we once had to accept that our planet isn't the center of the universe, we now have to accept that our mind isn't the only one that matters. We aren't alone in our awareness. We are surrounded by a vast and diverse chorus of subjective experiences, a secret animal reality that's been hiding in plain sight. This realization doesn't make us smaller. It makes the universe infinitely more interesting. It means that every forest, every reef, every patch of sky is home to not just biological life, but to feeling, experiencing beings, each navigating its own unique world. We've spent centuries searching for intelligent life in the stars, all while ignoring the intelligent and profoundly alien lives right here on Earth. The great challenge of our time is not only to keep exploring these other minds, but to decide how we'll act now that we know. The secret's out. What are we going to do about it?